Hey everyone, this is Nikki and this is Amy. We're the managers at Chewy's Bonetique, and we are going to answer a few questions that we get asked pretty often here at the store, and hopefully kind of educate you guys a little bit more on some of the information we can share with you. So we're going to start by just telling you a little bit about ourselves. So I have been here for 13 years, part-time for the first 6, and then I've been the full-time general manager for the last 6 years. I've been in the pet industry for over 20 years. I have 2 dogs, both Australian cattle dogs. I have a 10-year-old, almost 11-year-old, and a 3-year-old. My 11-year-old, one of the things that we get asked is, what do we feed our dogs? What supplements do we use for our dogs? So Hula is my 11-year-old, and she is super, super active. So I do give her a joint supplement. And then both of my dogs are fed a variety of foods. I rotate brands quite a bit, and they do raw, commercially prepared raw, and freeze-dried for the most part of their diet. Other than that, my dogs don't have any medical issues, so I do rotate through different supplements. So right now they're both getting fish oil. They're both getting this amazing micronutrient, superfood, antioxidant supplement that we sell here at the store. And then Hula's getting her fish or her joint supplement. So that's kind of what I feed and what I do for my dogs. Amy?
So I do basically almost the same thing. I have 2 dogs. I have a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old. So both of them are on a joint supplement. They have been for majority of their life. I just find that to be very important for overall health, and especially for movement, because that is usually what is a good helper for longevity. And I do have cats as well. They do a variety of things, but right now they're just mainly trying to stick with doing things that they will actually eat as they become a little picky in their older age. They're actually 17, so there's something to be said about having good food and good supplements. I have been here for 12 years, and so this has been something that we both enjoy doing and have been working with, trying to educate and move forward with like our customers, just with, doing the same things that hopefully we do, we can pass on to them.
Do you ever give any other supplements if your dogs are going through any difficult situations?
Oh yeah, so one of my dogs, the 13-year-old Zero, she's a border collie. She has really weird allergies. They're not always persistent, but when they are there, they're really bad. So we do an allergy supplement that we do sell here, and it does make a huge difference. And it's just like kind of a wave with her. So she's not always on them. It's not seasonal. It's just more, I guess, what's just going on in her life. And then we are pretty big advocates of pre and probiotics.
I was just going to say that. Like, we both do a lot of gut health stuff, and we rotate through the different brands, as well as like different veggie toppers and that kind of stuff that Amy and I both think are really, really important for gut health.
Yeah, and I second that. Gut health is such a big factor for overall health. If you don't have a good gut, everything kind of trickles down. Yep. So the more you can have a good gut, and really what's the best thing for that is rotating that. I feel like that's the best way to have it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. You want to start us off?
Sure.
So we have a handful of questions here that we get asked quite often, of a variety of topics. So if you guys have any questions, please drop them in the comments, or let us know next time you're in.
So this one's actually a really good one. Does dog food help clean my dog's teeth?
We get that a lot. Mm-hmm. And actually, we host anesthesia-free teeth cleanings every other month, and so we actually have that this week, and that becomes a very big question we get when people are coming in having their dog's teeth. So we like to use the analogy that a dog chewing on dog food is about the equivalent of you eating toast, and that is not going to clean your dog's teeth.
Kibble specifically.
Specifically.
Yes.
There is no proven evidence of dog food helping keep the teeth clean. In fact, we would argue to the contrary. We would actually say that kibble, because there's so much starch in kibble, and starch turns to sugar, and sugar is what feeds bacteria, and bacteria is what causes plaque and tartar. So it actually contributes to dental disease. So we have a variety of different supplements that we would recommend if you are feeding a kibble diet. There's everything from a powder you can sprinkle on their food, stuff you can put in the water, and obviously toothpaste. And then switching the diet, honestly, a fresh food diet, which is low in complex carbohydrates. You're going to have some veggies and stuff like that in there, which is really good for them. But that's going to be the biggest savings for dental in our opinion.
Yeah, and to speak on my behalf, for my dog's behalf, because of their age, 13 and 14, they have had one dental,
Yep.
and they were 11-ish, and the dentist was like, what are you doing? Because there's really nothing to come off these teeth.
Yep.
We also know or knew a dog that lived to be 21, and as far as I know, had no dental issues, and it's because the dog ate raw majority of her life.
Yeah.
So there really is something to be said about processed food and carbohydrates and what they can build up in, especially a dog's mouth, because it's totally different than how ours are.
Yeah. And there's a lot of genetics behind that. We understand that. Small dogs with small mouths tend to have worse teeth. But yeah, so that's just kind of a general idea of our thoughts on dental disease and dog food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your turn.
All right. So, Amy, what do you think about when should I start using senior dog food?
Well, in our matter of opinion, a lot of senior dog food is really just a marketing gimmick. There's really nothing too drastically different in a food that is labeled senior, because sometimes what they'll do is try to add glucosamine to it, which will never be enough. It'll never be therapeutic. And then the other things that they usually will do is lower the protein. And really you want the opposite. The opposite meaning you want higher protein, because especially as we get older, dogs get older, they can get muscle atrophy if they're not having that protein at a higher level. So really when we would say senior dog, it's about being on a good supplement, majority of the time joint, at least in my opinion, but it should be overall as well, including the gut health. But the fresher the food, the better it'll be. For an older dog, because everything kind of is taxing, especially when they're older. So when you have food that is more bially appropriate and more digestible, their organs are not overworking to break things down. And that's, the reality of getting old, is things are not working the way they should or not as they used to. So the higher quality that you can do, the less likely your dog's body will be breaking them down, so it'll be easier for them to adjust to that.
Yeah, and just to tag along, the other thing we get a lot of times is my dog is a senior and is overweight. And so sometimes people have a belief that going to a senior dog food is going to lower calories, which it might.
Yeah.
But I would argue that that's probably because they're lowering the meat content and increasing the carbs. So a lot of times what we recommend first is portion control, because a lot of times we're just overfeeding, and as our dogs get older, the metabolism slows down.
Yeah.
And so we have to feed them a little bit less. Or you could even, if you can't afford to go fresh food completely, you could do a combination of a little bit of kibble and then some fresh food, which is going to overall reduce the carbohydrate and keep that calorie amount a little bit lower.
And any sort of fresh food is better than none.
Yes.
So, like she said, if you can do just a little bit, it's better than none.
Okay.
All right.
And the colors here mean nothing.
How often should I bathe my dog? How often should I brush them?
Okay. So we do have a self-serve dog wash, so we do get this question quite a bit. We don't recommend bathing your dog more often than about once a month. And the reason for that is simply that you're going to dry their skin out, especially with the shampoos. Even a natural shampoo is going to dry them out if you bathe them super often. Obviously, there's going to be situations where you go to the dog park maybe and your dog gets dirty, so you have to bathe them a little bit more often. But typically once a month is what we would recommend. As far as how often you should brush your dog, if you have a longer haired dog, you should be brushing them at least a couple of times a week.
Yeah.
And if they're getting in water, like swimming or going to the creek or something like that, a long haired dog should be brushed every day. Because it's really important to keep the airflow circulating underneath the layer of fur that they have. And if there's any mats, every time they get wet, they mat. And then we end up with a big matted mess, and we don't want that.
Yeah. And sometimes it's about what breed of dog. And sometimes if there's a medical issue.
Yeah.
So if there is a medical issue, sometimes it is okay to bathe your dog more frequently, but it needs to be a medicated shampoo. And usually not one that's filled with chemicals, one that's more of a natural based one. And then, like, let's say you have a couch potato dog that doesn't really do much. You don't really need to do it once a month. You can stretch it to maybe every 2-3 months, but it also depends on how active you are, how much you do, where you go. If your dog has longer hair, then she's right. You have to keep up with it, or else exactly you end up with a matted mess. And that's just more work for not only us, not only you if you decide to handle it, but it's a lot of work on your dog. I mean, if you had your hair in dreadlocks and you try to brush that out, I mean, you're going to be there for hours, and that hurts and starts to irritate your scalp, that kind of thing. And also, it'll hurt your pocketbook because it is not cheap to continue to have a dog be matted to where your grooming appointment will take however much longer, hour longer, 2 hours longer, where we have to break it up into 2 sessions. So.
And we could go into more detail about maybe some skin conditions that might require more of that medicated shampoo and some of the options that we might have that from a more natural perspective, maybe in a different question.
Yeah.
A follow-up question.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. Well, this we kind of already touched on. It says, what are some ways to help keep my dog's teeth clean? So we kind of already talked about the anesthesia-free cleaning.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them a little bit more about that, maybe?
Sure. So the anesthesia-free dental cleaning, like she said, we do it every other month. It is done by a dog dentist and also by her or his technicians.
And the dentist is a veterinarian, so it is a licensed veterinarian.
Yes. Yep. And they do almost the exact same cleaning that you would get as if your dog was being put under anesthetic, but instead it is all naturally done. So they will actually sit on the floor with the dog. They'll kind of stick their legs out, if you will. So they have the dog in their lap. And so where the dog's head is basically facing them, kind of in this area. And they are basically just cleaning the teeth. If they feel it necessary, they will have a second tech help hold the dog. If they feel it necessary as well, they will give the dog some calming agent, which is usually just...
Rescue remedy.
Rescue remedy. I was like, it's Bach flowers, but I was trying to think of what it's called.
So it's an all natural. It's not a prescription or anything like that.
It takes about 45 minutes. They will check every dog before they agree to do it to make sure there's no loose, chipped, or cracked teeth. They will also ask you if their dog has a heart condition, because that's just something they don't really want to risk any sort of issue with. And you sign up all online, which we can get that information for you if you were interested in that. And they're great. We've been hosting them for
4 years?
No, I think longer than that. Before COVID.
That's how we always judge it. Was it pre-COVID or post-COVID?
And
so much changed.
Everyone, the number one question we get asked with it is, can they actually do it? Putting a dog in that position. Absolutely. I'd say out of every dental, I'd say for behavior, not for any other reason, behavior, I'd say I've seen maybe about 4 or 5 cases out of 5-6 years. And one, to use as an example, was like a 150-pound Great Dane that was just not going to go down.
Or a Chihuahua.
Or a biting Chihuahua.
You can't put your fingers near their mouths because they're too quick.
Too quick,
I have had Hula done that way.
Yeah, my dogs too.
My 11-year-old had her teeth cleaned. I would say she was probably 8, 7 when I had it done, and they're the ones that did it. So I've never had her put under for dental cleaning, and it's not exactly the same as when you have it put under because your dog is awake. So there's only certain things that they can't do. But the vet is really good. They'll always check the teeth and make sure that the teeth are sound. If they find any loose, broke, or cracked teeth, they won't do it. Because there's no point. The dog has to have an extraction. So why would we clean the teeth and then have to have the dog be put under to have that tooth removed? So our other dental stuff, though, just to touch on what else there is we encourage a lot of chews. Some people I know can be nervous about that, but the more your dog does it, the better it is. The more that they actually can put something in the back of their teeth. So whether that's a bone, a bully stick, raw bones, what comes out of the freezer, those are some of your best bets. Those tendons are some of my favorites.
Tendons. We also have some treats that can kind of pull apart like floss is how we describe them. And that can definitely make a huge difference. Sometimes it's just easiest to think, what would a dog do if we weren't here? And what would they do? They would find something to chew on and, naturally that's how they would do it.
And then we do have like toothpaste. We have a powder that you can sprinkle over the dog's food. We have a water additive. So we have some other things, especially if your dog does have dental disease, attacking it multifaceted with good chews as well as maybe a the plaque off powder or
Yeah.
a toothpaste is where we go. And it just depends on your dog and your dog's dental history is what we might recommend too.
Yeah.
But consistency.
Exactly.
Consistency is the key. I don't care what you're using. If you're only doing it once a month, you're not doing any good.
Yeah.
So you need to do it, I would say, 4 to 5 times a week in order to have any benefit from whatever it is, whatever method you choose to use.
Yeah, especially good dental care.
Yeah.
That's one that always, like, people will ask and then they'll do for a bit and then they stop doing it and wonder why nothing's working.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Why doesn't my dog eat his food when I put it down? He just walks away and then comes back to it hours later to eat.
Yeah, so that's a common one. Picky dogs. I would say the most common reason that your dog is doing that, they don't like their food. We hear that most often with dogs that are being fed a kibble diet, and that's all they're giving them. And it's probably the same food that they've been eating for years. And people come in and say, my dog's a grazer. He eats his, he takes a bite here, he walks away, he comes back, he takes another bite, and so he self-regulates. I would argue that your dog is doing that because he doesn't like what he's eating.
Yeah.
But he's not going to starve himself, so he's going to eventually eat it. Other reasons that could happen, Nordic breeds like Huskies, Malamutes, these northern breeds are notoriously very picky as well. So that's a common common denominator, I guess, with some of these dogs. Small dogs tend to get very bored with their food. So rotating brands, rotating flavors, really important to keep it exciting. I would say if it's a behavioral issue, well, first of all, we're gonna introduce some new foods into the dog's diet, and try and get them some things that they actually like. So we can send you home with some samples. We are always very giving with samples to see if we can find something that dog really likes, because just like Amy and I like different things, our dogs like different things.
Right.
I mean, mine don't eat anything, but
mine almost.
Yeah,
almost.
We're both pretty blessed with that. But we work with a lot of really, really picky dogs. If your dog needs to eat a specific food for a health reason, then there are some things we can add to that food that still continues that same food, but allows them to maybe enjoy their food a little bit more. Like bone broth is a really popular one. Even adding some fresh food to what you're currently feeding, whether it's canned food, freeze dried. We have some powdered, like sprinkled toppers that we can add to the food. But I would say more often than not, the reason is the dog just doesn't like the food.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be random things too. We've seen where people have a 10-pound dog and buy a 25-pound bag of food. After 2, maybe 3 months, that food is not going to taste the same. And that's just due to it being open, just from being oxidized. And it's just like kind of a good comparison is if you ate a bag of potato chips and you didn't eat it for 2 months, it's not going to taste the same. And so the same thing for them. And the longer it sits, the more it's going to go stale or bad, rancid potentially.
How long would you say that bag is good for once they open it?
If you want to go on the short side, about 4 to 6 weeks. If you want to try and push it, about 8 weeks maximum. Just for freshness and to make sure your dog is enjoying it, and good rotation. So you're not getting some huge bag that's lasting you that long. You're getting one that's going to last you 2 months, and that way you can get something else the next time that you're here, and kind of go from there. Sometimes right now we have the end of summer, but at the beginning of summer it was pretty significantly hot. So sometimes behavior wise it can be a heat issue. Some humans are like that too. It's super hot out, you don't want to eat, it's too much. So sometimes it's about waiting till it gets cooler to just see if that can help. I mean, that's just another idea of what an issue could be of why they don't want to run and eat it right away. I used to have a dog too, that he liked to eat, but he didn't always love to eat. So he would just kind of be like, well, I'll have a little bit now, and then I'll kind of like have some later. And I mean later, I mean like 10 seconds later. So just kind of like just going slow, which as long as you don't have a competitive dog, I don't think that's really an issue.
Yeah. And obviously there's medical reasons. We could talk about this question for an hour because we've seen so many different situations. So we're not vets. We're not trying to, diagnose your dog. If your dog, has a serious issue, we're not trying to overrun your vet. But this is a topic we could go on and on about. So I think we'll stop there. And if you have further questions, come on in and talk to us.
Yeah.
All right, so this is kind of an interesting question. This is, what are some housebreaking tips for puppies or recent rescues?
Well, there is a product called the Poochie Bell, which we do have that here. The Poochie Bell is idea is to put it on your door, the door that you're going to go out to go to the bathroom with, and you show your dog that every time the dog needs to go to the bathroom, it hits the bell. So every time it needs to go, it learns that, and you go outside, it goes potty, and you come back inside. If the dog hits the bell, to just go outside, right back in. That way they learn to associate that with going to the bathroom versus just going outside
And playing.
and playing.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't like the idea of puppy pads. I get it if they need to be used, but at the end of the day, you are teaching your dog to go inside. So if people want to go that route, you can put it down, and then once the dog goes, you take the dog, the pee pad, and throw it outside, and that way they can kind of start to associate with going outside. And sometimes it's about being consistent, going out. If you want to do it,
I would say it's always about being consistent when it comes to potty training.
Yeah.
Consistency is really, really
But
important.
meaning, like, if you want to do it every 2 hours, every 3 hours, every 4 hours, so that way the dog is starting to get that every time you're going outside, it's every 4 hours. This is what we do out there. Positive reinforcement, always trying to give maybe a treat when they go to the bathroom, so that way they can associate with every time they do it, this is where they should be, this is how it should be, not inside, and that kind of thing. That's really all that I have.
One of the tricks that I have, two tricks I've always found to be really effective. One is limiting the dog's movement in the house. Right? You bring a new puppy home and you have a 2-level house, you're not going to give them access to the entire house, because I guarantee they will go and they will find a spot and you will never know they peed there.
Right.
And then they'll keep peeing in the same spot. So limiting their ability to explore until they are at the point where they can continue, they can hold their bladder a little bit. And you have to realize that they don't intrinsically know they're not supposed to go to the potty in the house.
Right.
So you have to teach them this. It's like potty training a child. They don't know they're not supposed to go in their diaper. So giving them less space until they earn that space in the house, I think, is important. And this is important with rescues too, not knowing, if this dog ever lived in a house. You don't know their background, or were they ever housebroken. So that I find very effective. That also is a really good tip, I think, for cats.
Yeah.
Especially if you're moving or moved into a new home, or you're bringing a new cat into your house, is limit where they can go and make sure they have plenty of access to that litter box. And on that note, there should be at least a litter box on every level of your house, if not 2. I think a lot of times we try to survive with 1 litter box, and honestly, you should probably have more than that.
Yeah.
The other trick is tether the dog to yourself. So take a leash, a rope, whatever it is, tie it around the dog's collar and tie it around your waist or around your belt loop, especially if you are not watching that dog 100%. So one of our employees recently rescued a dog, and they're still having some trouble housebreaking him. They didn't know he wasn't housebroken. And I gave them this idea, and you will start to notice that behavior, that circling of, hey, they're looking for a place to go to the bathroom. So you can immediately stop what you're doing and take them outside, so that they start to learn that behavior is supposed to happen outside. And I've had a lot of success with that tip.
Yeah, and that is a good one for sure, because I mean, if you're, like she said, if you're not going to really be paying too much attention, how else are you going to keep them close by?
And crating. Crating is not a bad thing. A dog that is in a crate, especially an appropriately sized crate, meaning if you have a very small dog, you don't want a very, very large crate, because the dog is less likely to have an accident in the crate because they don't want to sleep in it.
Right.
And on that note, people think it sounds mean, but I don't recommend putting anything in the crate with a puppy. Right. Because they're just going to pee on it and scooch it over to the corner, and then they have a dry place to sleep. So I guess it's kind of like diaper. I mean, we don't have kids, but if we had kids, it'd be like you're housebreaking your kids. What do you call it? Potty training.
Potty training your kids.
Is that sometimes you need them to feel that wetness so that they understand that they shouldn't have that accident in their diapers.
Yeah.
So, one other note, male dogs, especially male rescues that tend to mark everything. We don't sell them in the store because we don't get that much call for it, but belly bands. They're called belly bands. You can find them online. They're usually just a strip of fabric that go around the belly and then Velcros. And so if the dog marks, the pee is caught in the belly band. And you can line them with like panty liners or maxi pads or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's been a really effective one too.
Yeah.
Okay. One more?
Sure.
Are you having fun?
I'm having fun.
I can crop that out of the video.
This one we get very much in the summer. So why does my dog eat grass?
Yeah, we get that a lot. Actually, one of my dogs is a grass eater, especially in the spring.
Yeah, mine too.
So there's a couple of reasons why your dog could be eating grass. For my dog, she likes the fresh grass, especially in the spring. Early growth grass is sweeter. If anyone has ever had livestock or horses, they know that the fresh grass is the sweetest. And so some dogs just like it for the taste.
Yeah.
Some dogs will eat it because they're nauseous, and so it will make them throw up. My dog eats it. She never throws up. So I think the body kind of uses the grass as it needs to. If it needs to throw up, it will throw up. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's different grasses that they eat, or they eat them in bigger pieces. I've never really figured that part out.
Yeah.
So yeah, one is they like it. One, they do have an upset stomach, and so it will make them throw up. And the third reason sometimes is that sometimes dogs are missing those nutrients. In the wild, canines will eat the stomach content of their prey, and so they will get some refids and vegetable matter from their prey. And sometimes they're not getting enough of that in their diet. So I have had success with recommending some of our veggie blends.
Yep.
We have several different ones that adding that to their diet, which gives them that roughage, gives them that vegetable matter, has helped resolve some of that grass eating.
Yeah.
I should probably, maybe I'll try that with Hula. But you know, she only does it in the spring.
Yeah, my dog.
She doesn't do it all summer, and she doesn't do it at all in the winter.
Yeah. In mine, at least, they find like, and at least in my backyard, there's 2 spots. So it's clearly a certain type of grass.
Yeah.
That they go and find and only eat there. So it's not like they're munching down the whole lawn.
Yeah.
It's just only in 2 spots.
It's funny.
And it's the grass that is harder to get with a lawnmower. So it's where, you know, it's taller. Next to something, so it's taller.
Yeah. And if your dog is a grass eater and it's not causing an upset stomach, it's not a bad thing.
No.
The only thing to keep in mind is if it's not your grass, you need to make sure it hasn't been sprayed.
Yeah. That's the biggest risk of it, is just the how sick they can get from whatever pesticides are put wherever, whoever knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I said one more. I don't think they're busy in there though.
They're not. I keep an eye on them.
Why does my dog stink even right after a bath?
Well, the number one reason why dogs usually have
Let me just say this. This is a loaded question. This could be an hour-long conversation. So we're going to try and do this quickly.
Right.
Because we both know the answer to this.
Yes. So most of the time when dogs still have a specific odor, it is because something is not agreeing with them, and it comes out in their body as yeast. So typically that is from some sort of food that they're eating. Majority of the time that is what it is from, and it is very apparent. It smells, a lot of times if everyone uses the analogy, that smells like Fritos, and it does, or corn chips. But when it's bad, it is bad. And most of the time, dogs will get really bad ear infections. They can get them in their paws, so that sometimes the paws are really stained. The ears, they will have the odor. The paws will have the odor. And we actually had a customer not too long ago. We brought to her attention that her dog is, you know, has some sort of yeast issue. And she's like, that's just how my dog smells. Yeah. And it's like, that's not
dogs shouldn't have a body odor.
No, there's no reason that they should, unless there is something that is not agreeing with their system. So majority of the time it's just a simple food switch to get rid of that. We do have a yeast detox, so basically what it can do is find the yeast and help pull it out. But if you are still going to feed something that potentially is giving your dog that issue, the yeast detox is just going to mask it for a short amount of time, and then it's going to come back because that underlying issue is still there. So
I like to tell people with that is that yeast actually lives in the gut, and it lives in the gut all the time. It's in my gut, it's in your gut, it's there. So yeast lives with good bacteria and bad bacteria. And there's good yeast and bad yeast.
Right.
We're talking specifically about the bad yeast. But all of these critters live in our gut all the time.
Yes.
And they live in a symbiosis, I guess. And what happens sometimes is that yeast overpopulates. And it a lot of times is from a food issue. Sometimes it can also be medication.
Yeah.
So especially a dog that's been on recent antibiotics or heavy dose antibiotics, it's kind of like humans can get thrush, because what happens is we kill all of the bacteria, and so then the yeast overpopulates. And what happens is the yeast lives in the gut and it comes out through the organ or through the skin.
Yes.
And the skin is the largest organ in the body. And so it comes out through the ears and the feet first. But sometimes we have people that literally they walk in, they're using our self-wash, and especially when they're blow drying their dog, it's so strong.
Yes.
And
Pungent.
it's a very, very unique smell.
Yeah.
But yeah, and typically I'll tell people, if you just bathe your dog and that smell comes back in 2 or 3 days, it's almost always yeast.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and sometimes it can, when it can be all over the body, you don't always see it, and there's not really a way to see it.
I would say you rarely see it.
Yeah.
Every once in a while we'll see like that black skin that can sometimes be
like the underbelly specifically, but there's not really a way to tell visually.
Yeah.
Besides if your dog is the ear infections and on the paws where they can be a little stained. And sometimes that's not always the case either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna wrap there because we'll go on and on that one. Is it your turn? I think it's your turn.
How often should I get my dog's nails trimmed?
Oh, depends. Usually about every 4 to 6 weeks, I think, is a good rule of thumb. Puppies' nails can grow a lot faster. Older dogs' nails sometimes slow down. One of the things is if your dog's nails are touching the ground, whether you hear them click like that or you visually can see them touching the ground, it's probably time to get them trimmed.
Right.
We do nail trims on a walk-in basis every day of the week. But there's some reasons to do that too, not just because it might scratch your hardwood floors, but there actually has been some evidence. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So one of the podcasts I listened to recently was talking about how if your dog's nails are on the ground and they're putting pressure on it, it's affecting the way they walk and affecting the way that they hold their feet, and it can actually cause early arthritis.
Yes.
Sorry guys, the wind is picking up. But anyway, good rule of thumb is 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, and I would agree. I say it does depend. Every dog's kind of grow at a different rate. And sometimes when you can hear them, like she said, that's the biggest indicator. So we have people that come in here maybe like every 2 weeks. We have people that come in here, every 6 months, which is not ideal because you should never hear them. And they have basically said that, if you think about it, if you're going to be walking like this doesn't feel good to you. So the more that you can cut them back, and the better it is for the dog that they don't have to be done as often. So once you get them where their quick has withdrawn and it is farther back, then the frequency of coming can be dropped down a little bit.
So what Amy was, I think what you forgot. So the quick is the blood supply that goes to the end of the nail. And what happens sometimes is if you go a long time without trimming your dog's nails, that quick will grow with the nail. So we can only get it so short because we don't want to cut the blood supply and cause them to bleed, and it hurts. So sometimes if a dog comes in and their nails are really overgrown, we can take a little bit off, and then we recommend that you come in more frequently, like every 2 weeks. And we get a little bit shorter, a little bit shorter, a little bit shorter, because that quick will retreat back into the nail. And then once it's at an appropriate length, then you can go back to like your 4 to 6 week cycle. The other one I want to point out is the dew claw. If your dog has dew claws, they will tend to curl. So even if their regular nails are looking good, you've got to check that dew claw. And if it's curling, and it can curl back into the pad, we've seen it, unfortunately, where it curls back into the pad to the point where we actually can't trim it. And we've had to send them to the vet because it's painful. It hurts. It will cause the pad, because we have to put pressure on the nail to trim it. Actually will puncture into the pad and cause it to bleed. And they don't like us doing that.
No,
so.
It can puncture the pad regardless. Even if you don't trim it, if it curls all the way like that and it goes in there bad enough, it will actually embed itself in there to where if whatever you do, it comes out, it will bleed.
And so at that point, we usually recommend you go to the vet and have them numb it or sedate the dog depending
Yeah.
on how bad it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
My cheeks red.
A little bit.
I feel like I'm hot. I hear my dog's stomach gurgling pretty often. Is that normal?
I would say that depends too, but most of the time it can be normal. Sometimes it's mainly that they aren't either eating enough, or they. This one's gonna stump me a little bit.
I think they're meaning more like upset tummy sounds.
Yeah.
Is what I think this question is referring to. Like maybe your dog is nauseous and then isn't eating, and so then their stomach's kind of rumbling and gurgling. So what would you recommend for that?
If that is the case, then it could be as simple as just adding some bone broth, because the bone broth is not only extra moisture, but it can help kind of settle the stomach. It's just like you and I, if we had an upset stomach, we would have like some chicken noodle soup or something bland like that, because it would, just kind of can settle the stomach. We also have a couple things, some tinctures that actually can help settle the stomach pretty easily. They're super easy to give because you can just give them orally. And they're mainly just ginger and mint, which is kind of like an all-natural Pepto-Bismol, if you will. So it can kind of just help the stomach settle. You could try doing some bland diet stuff too, but really if you're worried that the dog's stomach is upset, sometimes adding more food is not ideal, because it could just make it more upset. So it would be about doing something very bland, very basic, and just doing a little bit. So, even less than probably half of what you're normally used to feeding, that can definitely kind of help settle it.
I think that's great suggestion for like an acute situation, meaning like this isn't a normal situation and all of a sudden over a couple of days you notice your dog is gurgling more. I think if it's more of a chronic issue, I would probably recommend digestive enzymes.
Yeah.
So digestive enzymes are going to help supplement what the body already creates to digest food. And sometimes that rumbly tummy it's gas, right? And gas in the stomach is a side effect of poor digestion.
Yeah.
So kind of creating or supplementing with those enzymes that the body naturally makes would help fully digest the food a little bit better and potentially alleviate that gassy belly. Assuming that's the topic that you were asking about.
Where it's coming from. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You want one more?
No, we can done. We can done now. How long did we go?
Longer than you think.
That didn't turn off.